Okay, students, we're picking back up with episode 4 of Snowbound in our story. And as you can see, there's a picture of the blizzard in Chicago, and you can see for scale the size of the snowdrift next to the man. Okay, our vocabulary is bluntly, which is in a very frank or honest way without consideration to feelings. So if you're going to tell somebody something very bluntly, you are going to tell them the truth, but in a way that might hurt their feelings because you're just going to be out there with it. Very honest. Disoriented is to be lost or confused. And so it's very disorienting to be out in the snow because you can get what's called snow blindness because you're not literally blind, but it's very hard to see where you're going. An insulator is a material that keeps heat from entering or escaping something. So you want to, have something that insulates you from the cold. And a vendor, someone who sells things. All right, episode 4, Lost. In episode 3, Katie got upset when Miss Kent, after learning that they might not be able to contact May before Katie would have to leave New York. After they went back out into the storm, Miss Kent disappeared. So that's what just happened in episode 3 if you're listening to this right after episode 3. So Katie was upset, and then they went out to the storm, and Kate and Miss Kent they got separated from Miss Kent. Miss Kent, I cried out, hardly able to hear myself, but the only reply was a howling spiral of snow. She had vanished, just like the rumbling wagons, shouting vendors, and booming elevated trains that normally populated the street, all devoured by the snow. It was just Bee and me now, and I was so disoriented by the blinding snow that I didn't know how to get back to the orphanage where we'd lived for 3 years. But we had to go somewhere. We couldn't stay out in the storm for long. I could barely see the buildings to determine if one of them was lit and might be welcoming. Clutching Bee's small hand in mine, I began to walk anywhere just to keep moving, to keep warm, because you don't want to stop if you're that cold. I thought of a book I'd read about Greenland where people use snow as an insulator. It kept them warm. If need be, could I dig a snow cave? Then I started to think about May possibly sitting in a train on the tracks, just like the people on that elevated train. And I wondered if I have to leave before May can get here, will I disappear like people disappear in the snow? I should have stayed focused, but the whiteout made my thoughts as chaotic as my surroundings. There's more than 1 million people in this city, so why do I feel so alone? There must be someone around here who can help us, I thought. And have you ever been that way? Have you ever been like in a big crowd, but you're not with anybody you really know, or maybe with a younger sibling, or with somebody you don't know that well, and you feel, even though you're in a crowd, you feel alone. And if you haven't and never experienced that, you can, the first time you do, you can think back to the story because this character is feeling that way. Even though she is in a crowd, she is feeling alone. Hey, is someone standing up there? A man's voice bellowed over the wind. You there, you kids, come with me now, said the voice, which was getting louder as if the man was coming closer. An enormous gloved hand reached out and I grabbed it, still holding on to Bee with my other hand. The man had a rope tied around his middle and he seemed to be tethered. So the other end of the rope seemed to be tied to something as well, tethered to something. He began to follow the rope, demonstrating to us that we should do the same. Get in front of me and grab the rope and go where it leads you, he instructed, and we did as we were told. The rope ended at a door handle, and on the other side of the door, it was a completely different world. Warmth from a potbelly stove, light from oil lamps, and beaming faces greeted us as we entered some kind of shop I'd never been in before. A woman who looked like Miss Snippen, but with warm eyes instead of icy cold ones, ran over and began to peel off our saturated, uh, wet coats. Oh, Tom, you found two more. Make room by the stove, she told the assembly of people, some young, some old, some wearing delivery and conductor's uniforms, others in the finest suits and dresses. Come on now, they're only children and they need the warmth more than anyone. My face was numb, making it hard to form words. Miss Kent, I managed to say. Looking concerned, the woman replied gently, No, child, I'm Miss Blake. What I mean is there someone named Miss Kent here? I clarified. She takes care of us at the orphanage, and we lost her in the storm. Miss Blake looked at the man who had rescued us. No one here by that name, he said bluntly, still shivering from the exposure he had endured rescuing so many people. She's from the orphanage, you say? Asked Miss Blake. That's only about a block from here, so she's probably safely there now. But she'd be looking for us, said Bee. Nothing to be done now, the man said, but when then he managed a little grin, probably meant to comfort us. I'll go back out there to look for more people as soon as I get a little warmer, and in the meantime, have some hot tea and don't you worry about your Miss Kent. She probably found shelter just like you did. Miss Blake brought out a tray of bread, cheese, pickled egg, and smoked meat, and I soon discovered my appetite. Even Bee, normally a fussy eater, ate her full share. Katie, what if May is on the train that's sitting on the tracks? She'll never get to us, she whispered. Like me, Bee had been frantic with thoughts of May. I was more worried that May might freeze or starve, but I thought I remembered hearing that trains had wood stoves and food to purchase. Surely, if they got stranded, the conductor would distribute the food to anyone who needed it. She'd be fine on a train, I told Bee. Trains that run between cities have fine foods and plenty of wood for the stove, and even velvet curtains at the windows, and people all dressed up in luggage, even so they can bundle up against the cold. I hoped this was soothing to Bee, but if nothing else, at least it was soothing to me. Maybe the train I would take to my new family would be like that, and maybe my new family would be kind and generous like the family that had taken in May. Anyway, I added, we don't even know if May boarded a train. She may be still in Boston. Bee looked up at me. But if it's snowing in Boston too, then she'll never get here before all the snow melts, and you'll have to leave me. Bee, I didn't mean that May wasn't coming, I stammered. Everything will be all right. I really think it will. Outside, the storm was as blustery as ever, and I wasn't really sure of anything. Okay, and again, you're going to click on your activity, and it really, really does help you um, if you will split the page so that you can refer back. So let's see how you do that one more time. Okay, at the bottom it says refer to article. So I always just click that. And then that puts my article over here, but still, I still can't see my question. So I came up here to I just call it the shadow box. It's a box in a box. It says restore down. And that puts my questions in a box. And sometimes it's not, I like for it to not be touching. Sometimes it doesn't quite make it. So I can move this one. I can move my article over a little bit. So that way I can move this around and move this around if they're not touching. Then they won't interfere with each other. Okay, so again, this one says select the letter of the correct answer. The episode says the rope ended at a door handle, and on the other side of the door, it was a completely different world. Warmth from a potbelly stove, light from oil lamps, and beaming faces greeted us as we entered some kind of shop I'd never been in before. A woman who looked like Miss Snippen, but who was with warm eyes instead of icy cold ones, ran over and began to peel off our saturated coats. What does this passage show about this episode's conflict? A new conflict is established as Katie knows Miss Snippen will be angry that she and Bee have not returned to the orphanage. Is that what it is it about? Miss Snippen hasn't really been in here very much at all in this story. A new conflict is established as Katie is uncomfortable in an unfamiliar atmosphere with a group of strangers. Well, this is saying she's kind, warmth, light, beaming faces, uh, warm eyes. It doesn't seem like she's uncomfortable. A conflict of Katie and B suffering the effects of the blizzard is resolved as they have found a warm place to shelter. Okay, the they were in the blizzard, but now they're in a warm place. So that seems like it is a resolution to the conflict. The conflict of Katie having to leave the orphanage is resolved as she has found a generous family to take her in. They're not saying anything about taking her in. She's still at the end, still talking about her problem of a family and what's going to happen with May. So you just go through, and here is the passage. So it's giving you the passage to look at. You don't have to go back into the story unless you want to say, well, at the end, is this family taking her in, or is this a business? So you just still can eliminate your choices. Okay, so that's it. 3 and 4, and I think we have 2 more left, and we'll do those next week. So have a great day.